I'm Sam Freeman, and I have been doing behavior consulting for, about since 1997. So I've been around a while. I've seen generations of dogs, and it's a whole bunch of fun. I've loved working with Rescue Golden. What I do with Rescue Golden is I try to help either evaluate the dogs when they come in and try to figure out what their best match would be. Also, what I do is help the people once they get the dog and try to get that transition to be a little bit smoother. So, what I'd like to go over with you today are just a couple of things to set you up for success. Because when you get your new dog, you're super excited, you finally got the call, but sometimes it's a little rocky. So, these are some of the common things that I'll see. So, the first thing is we want to talk about kind of your expectations. So, you may not necessarily know about the dog you're getting. So, what I want you to think ahead of time is what kind of role do you want that dog to play in your life? So what that means is, do you want the dog to just be a lap dog with you and you're kind of a homebody? Are you active? Are you out hiking? Do you want the dog to be able to walk? Do you have a super social neighborhood where everybody gets together for barbecues and you're all together on the cul-de-sac? Um, Try to think about those kinds of things. Where are you going to be taking your dog? You're going to be taking your dog on vacation, so you're going to be having others watch your dog. Think about all those kinds of things because all that really matters. The next thing that I want you to do is once you get your dog, you've kind of got your ideals in mind, and that's fine, and hold on to those ideals. But then you're going to take that time to get to know the dog. And one of the first things you're going to do is need to ease the dog into your routine. What I mean by that is I've seen it go both ways. I've seen people throw parties and have 60 people over and have like a dog shower and have so much going on, and that's so overwhelming for them, especially some of the shyer dogs. Maybe if you have one of the puppy mill dogs, or just imagine being in a completely new environment and suddenly there's a party for you. So sometimes it's a little too much. But we'll see the other side of it, which involves people that take a whole week off of work, nobody's allowed to come over, and they take their whole life and turn it into something it's not. And there's all this concentrated attention given to the dog for that first week. And then, boom, we go back right into reality on Monday. And that's not helping the dog. You want to spend as much time as you can with the dog, but I think one of the most important things when you first get them home is start easing them into your routine, whatever that would look like. So if your routine includes that you're in and out of the house, you're going to want to be in and out of the house, but you can do that just in a trial. So you could do that where you just drive around the block, decide if you're going to crate the dog, not crate the dog. Some of that has to do with the information that you were given about the dog. It also can do with the age of the dog. I can almost guarantee you that if you've got a dog under 2 years old, you're going to want to crate them. If you have a dog over 2 years old, then maybe test and see how much of a risk you're willing to take. If you have a dog under 2 and you are going to crate, or even over 2 and you are going to crate, you don't want to just crate them and then leave and go off to church. You want to be able to crate them and go for a short little trip and see how things go. In this day and age, we've got cameras all over the place. I've got cameras all over my house, and that helps me to see what's going on when I'm gone. I'll tell you, I have learned more about my animals from having cameras around. I use the Amazon system Blink, and it gives little Blink clips, but it's a very inexpensive system. And what I like about it is you can see it live, but you can also get just all the motion clips, maybe 9, 10 seconds worth, and you kind of get an idea of what's going on. So ease them into that. And that alone training, make sure you're teaching them if you are going to leave, you need to leave. You don't have to leave on the first day, but you really need to get that going. And don't start with an 8-hour workday. Start out with just a little bit at a time. Going over is a discussion about other dogs, and that's going to be a little twofold. So sometimes we've got other dogs in the household, and then I want to talk about other dogs outside of the household. So let's talk about other dogs in the household too. If you are bringing home your new golden and you have another dog, whether it be a golden or any other breed, it doesn't matter. This is would be different advice for cats, but we want to kind of give you a few ideas of some things to work on. The first thing is usually what happens and where we see some mistakes take place is the new dog comes in And the new dog gets all the attention because, let's face it, they're adorable and we're so excited about it. So the new dog winds up getting all the attention, kind of creating a little bit of competition between maybe the old dog and the new dog. So what is best is try to balance that attention. Remember, what you want to do, especially when you're new and easing them into it, is create normalcy. If we can create normalcy right away and little bits of it as we go, everything's going to be much more successful for you. So you want to be able to balance the attention because your new dog needs to understand that not all attention is his. And your older dog needs to understand that he's going to have to share some of the attention. So some of the best things to do with that is try what I call a 50-50 attention. You got two hands, two dogs. It works out great for two, one in each hand. Because if they crowd in and compete with each other and compete for your one hand, then we can see problems, which is the next thing I want to talk about. It's common for them to have some sort of a competition. Dogs always have their own personality and their own rank, and they tend to come in and they're trying to figure out what their position is. We can't really determine that for them. So we can't say because you're the second dog in, you're going to be the second dog in terms of rank. That's not how it goes. Dogs will find this usually on their own, but they might need some guidance. If they need some guidance, here's what you want to be able to do. If you see them competing for attention, remember you got two hands, one for each dog. That would work out much better. Also, you want to make sure that if anybody is pushing in, whether it be your existing dog or the new dog and trying to compete over that same attention, you want to try to discourage that. And by discourage it, what I mean is just pull back. You don't need to try to force regulate anything at this point because we're just not at that point and that could create other problems, but just pull back. So the more someone tries to push for more, then the less available it is. So do a big pullback on that. So you're giving them attention, they're crowding in, somebody's trying to get more, everything stops and nobody gets attention, and then just wait a little bit and try again. Try not to be more valuable by giving the attention and creating that kind of a situation and thinking that that's going to be okay. It may be normal, but it could be a setup for problems later. The next thing is going to be about if you're taking a dog home and you have another dog, of course they're likely to play together. And not all play is good. Some play is too much. So the things I'm just going to kind of caution you for is you want to make sure that the play looks balanced between them. We don't want to have either dog coming in and being a bully. Remember, just because one dog is having fun and their motivation is to play and they're not trying to hurt anybody and they're not trying to be mean, doesn't mean that's what the actual behavior plays out to be. So I want you to always think of putting yourself in what I'll call the victim's role. And so if we've got one dog that is just an intense player and the other dog that's always running and maybe on his back and almost looks like he's defending himself, if it looks like he's defending himself and running away for his life, he probably is. We don't want to make that overwhelming. It is okay to stop play. And you can simply stop play by just literally getting in there and telling everybody they need to knock it off, separate them. And even if you have to separate with a baby gate or by crating or putting one on a leash or anything, separate rooms, one inside, one outside. Remember, as their arousal goes up, if you can stop it, that arousal goes back down. And by the time they come back together, then things get much smoother. And so if it starts going up and you stop it, we bring it down. We can get them back together. It starts going up. We stop it, bring it down. We want to mediate the play. We want the dogs to find each other predictable. They don't have trust in each other yet, so that kind of wrestling can be a little overwhelming. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's important to have, I'm going to say, a little bit of gentle leadership over them. So what I want to caution you of is one of the things that I'll see, people get a second dog and then they just kind of pull out all governance over the household and just let the two dogs, they play, they do everything together, they go for walks together, they eat together, they share snacks together, they share toys, they share bedding. And it's almost like two dogs become one. And that shouldn't happen. We need to have two dogs stay two dogs, come together as one and play and have a good relationship, but they need to be two dogs. So I recommend walking them separately, having separate training sessions. Even if you're just doing 5 minutes, you've got some treats in your pocket, you're going to do some positive reinforcement training, just one dog at a time. Teach them how to have self-regulation or impulse control when one dog's getting attention and another dog is actually separated from them. Those are things that are such valuable lessons for you to normalize right away, and that prevents a lot of problems. Let's switch and talk about dogs that are out in the environment. And I'm going to give you two categories. We'll talk about meeting dogs on leash, and we'll talk about off-leash play. If you're meeting them on leash, my recommendation with a new dog, don't meet them on leash yet. I think it would be much better to have your dog learn how to walk on a leash, learn about you and he, what your expectations are, what you're expecting of him, what his behavior is, and let it just be about the two of you first. Separate from your other dog, as we talked about already. You can incorporate them together later on, but let's work through the adjustment of separating them during this time. Separating them during this time also helps you to kind of build a little relevancy. I'm going to talk about that again in the summary, but relevancy is important. You need to be relevant to the dog that you're walking. I saw a situation where we saw a juvenile golden retriever, beautiful dog, and he was crossing the street. We were in Long Beach, California, crossing the street, and he was pulling, and it looked like he was swimming and filing his nails on the asphalt. And he was pulling the owner so hard, even for a juvenile at about 6 months old. And I found it so sad for the owner because the dog wanted to see everything but the owner. Everything was more exciting. A gum wrapper was more exciting. A dog in the distance. Just the next thing was more exciting. And even when he got there, then it became the next thing. What needs to happen first is it needs to be about you too. If everything else is more exciting than you, how are you going to get him to walk nicely on a leash? How are you going to get him to pay attention to you when he needs to pay attention to you? And if he thinks that every time he's walking on the leash, he gets to see every single dog that he wants to meet, then your relevancy decreases. And then all he wants to do is shorten the distance between him and that dog. And then we've got pulling and we've got all kinds of frustration behaviors, which could include barking and even become lunging and just anger because I want to get there. So if we can stop that, that would actually be great. And just try to walk just with you and your dog and don't meet other dogs. The last thing on the dog part I want to talk about is dog play or group dog play. Most people want to get a dog and then they automatically go to dog parks. And when they're going to dog parks, it's just, think of it like this. It's a gigantic cocktail hour and you're brand new in your neighborhood and now you're at a cocktail party with 60 different people. That's a lot. We don't even know if your dog likes dog parks, likes dogs in that setting. Is your dog introverted or extroverted? We don't know any of that. So let's give the dog time to tell you what he's about. Meet with other friends and their dogs, not on day one. Give it a couple of days and then meet and see how they play together. I have one situation now not with a golden, but with a different breed where the new dog came in just like a bull in a china shop. And there's no way they can take that dog to a dog park at this point because he just bullies and bulldozes other dogs, and it would just be a recipe for frustration. So we can help you with that stuff, but you kind of want to get to know that dog. Just because you like dog parks doesn't mean your dog is going to behave best in that situation. Just because you've got a sociable neighborhood does not mean that every single dog is a dog that should be met. So I want to kind of sum up a little bit. And what I'd like to say, and this should be review of everything we went over, but the first thing is go slowly. Go slowly, but get it done. Because we've got to normalize things, but just ease the dog into that. So everything shouldn't happen on day 1, but everything shouldn't happen on day 8 either. So just ease into that. The next thing is And this is a big one, and I've alluded to it throughout this. You are going to have to adjust your expectations. I told you in the beginning, I want you to think about what you want that dog's role to be in your household. But you've got to remember, just like any relationship, you might want this. This is what you got. And how do you make the best of this? And how do you shuffle together and have a great relationship? The best way to do that is to try to help the dog to move over some into your direction, and you've got to move over some into the dog's direction. So you're going to need to understand if the dog doesn't like doing certain things that you like doing, you can't put him in that position and assume he's going to just learn to like it. So just remember that it's important to meet your dog where your dog is at, and it takes some time to learn that. It doesn't mean he won't give, but you need to give too. And I really like meeting somewhere in the middle because I think that that shows respect both ways. And I think that works better in a relationship. The last thing that we mentioned that I said we'd come back to is relevancy. I want you to go to training with your dog. You don't need to go, but train your dog. He needs to learn all the basics. And if he can learn those things and just be with you for that, then we've got you becoming more important. If he learns that he has to sit before you open a door, as an example, it gives him some accountability to you. And when we're at a doorway and he's looking at you and asking for you to open the door, that's the key to everything. If he thinks that somehow the door telekinetically opens because he shows up and then he's blasting through it like a greyhound at a starting gate, then he doesn't even need you. We want to make sure he needs you. All the things that are self-serve in this world, doggy doors, self-feeders, pure access to the furniture, there's not a rule in sight. Think of for all the times you indulge your dog in those things. It's not that those things are bad, but how much does your dog need you? You need him to need you more than the use of your credit card. So he needs to need you in order to get those things. And then you'll become more relevant. And then if I need to help you with something or someone needs to help you with something, it makes it much easier because we've got a good foundation to be able to work with. I hope these things were helpful. And of course, if you need any help at all, contact Rescue a Golden and they will direct you in the right direction to find someone who can help you.